Russell, so we'll do a comparison video with Djokovic on your serve. So we'll go over the same points that I mentioned in your analysis previously, in your serve analysis previously. So let's have a look at the wrist. So let's have a look. So let's see. So let's have a look at your. Okay, so there at the beginning, and we'll have a look at Djokovic's. So okay, so we'll have a look at that. So over here, we can already start seeing Djokovic get that wrist going. So that wrist here is allowing him to drop and invert the racket a little bit. So on your one here, we're seeing, can you see how your racket is not inverting already in this position, and it's kind of quite sort of not as flexible. So you can see the Djokovic's wrist here is coming in, and he's really dropping that wrist and inverting the wrist, so his racket face is inwards facing. Whereas you'll see that your racket's already going a little bit outwards and not as much inwards. So here you would want to see your wrist kind of going inwards a little bit like this. So if we have a look at here, it's just going to get more pronounced. So can you see what that wrist is doing? So his arm is more like this, but his wrist is dropping down and letting the racket drop down. Whereas in your position here, you could see that your wrist, because your wrist is not flexing, it's having that racket go back as opposed to it being dropped down. And then if we look at what happens next, can you see how that wrist is coming inwards, and you can see that racket face is sort of pointing inwards. And if we have a look at yours, see there, your racket face is sort of pointing outwards. It's pointing sort of away from you rather than sort of slightly inwards. And then of course, then he will obviously gain a lot more momentum from that wrist angle, and you can see here, whereas yours is a bit more like that. Again, pointing away from you, whereas Djokovic's racket face is pointing inwards. It's sort of coming a bit more inwards. So hopefully this helps you visualize that point. So if we go back and look at the second point, which was the trophy position or the elbow. So this one is probably, like I said, one of the key areas of where you should focus on your training at this point. So if we have a look at how you're starting your swing, and over here, your arm is, and your wrist and your arm is completely straight. So there's just a straight line across your wrist, across your arm. If we look at sort of higher level servers, we're going to start seeing something in this position where they are releasing the ball. We're starting to see something quite different. Elbows pulling back, so you can see Djokovic's elbow. He's pulling his elbow backwards a little bit. Can you see how his elbow is already bending? His wrist is dropping. So he has a slightly different angle here. And then it just exaggerates, so you'll see him exaggerating it more. So you'll see that as the ball is going up, you are bending the elbow a little bit, but it's a very, very small V. So I call this the V shape in your elbow. So if we have a look at Djokovic's, as the ball's going up and he's getting into that trophy position, his lowest point in his V, you could see how pronounced this V is. So right here, a very pronounced V pointing down. And yours is slight. So this is the key position. What you'll see also is that your racket face is pointing away in this position, whereas Djokovic is kind of coming inwards a little bit. You can see that his racket face is just slightly inwards. His strings are in a different angle. And then if we have a look at the non-dominant hand, so remember I said that you were holding your hand up, but then it looked like here it started to already drop. Whereas if we have a Djokovic's, so he's coming through. Can you see how his left arm just stays up? So you'll see his left arm just staying up longer, and yours is already starting to drop a little bit. And then the final thing was that extension. So you could see there, you're extending, so your back and then arm extension. And if we have a look at Djokovic's, you'll see more extension. So can you see how that back is already extending? So right there, this extension through the back is really what we want to see. A little bit more extension through the back and a full extension in contact. So real extension here through the racket, through the arm, through the back. So if we have a look at yours, your extension sort of is here. So this is there. So that's your extension. So we have like back and then arm and then racket up. So not as one linear movement. That's my point. So you want to be making this movement as one sort of long linear movement. Yeah, like that. Sort of one long linear movement. So back arm, racket in more like a straight line. And then let's quickly have a look at the follow through. So your follow through, your pronation was good, follow through good. And if we have a look, Djokovic is good, long extension. Also pronation, of course, just like we saw with yours. See that pronation in your wrist? This is really good. So this is one of I think one of your biggest strengths is your ability to be able to do this pronation. It's not easy. A lot of people struggle to do it. And the fact that you are able to do it, it just shows that you have, good talent for serve and good sort of grasp of the fundamentals. And then there, and then if you look at Djokovic's, he's a little bit further in the court, so you can see he's quite well inside the court, and you're a little bit inside the court, so that's another thing maybe you can work on. But like I said, the things that I pointed out, those are the areas I would recommend personally you work in at the moment. Of course, we can improve a lot more things, but I always like to focus on what are the priorities rather than working on everything, which is not very efficient way to structure your training and to improve. You kind of point out the key areas. I would say start only with 2 or maximum 3 key areas to work in, and then once you've developed those, then you look outside again, you zoom out and look what else can be improved. So yeah, so hopefully you find this useful. Please let me know if this was useful for you, for your serve. And yeah, and I hope to hear from you again for your next shots, or maybe a lesson plan on your serve. So yeah, I'll speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.